I'm here with Liza Bellotti, the mother of Rex Bellotti Junior, and she is going to share with us her life.
Yes, I'd like to just say, with what's happened to my son on the 6th of March 2009, is any parent's worst night. Knowing that your son or your daughter has been injured in such a way to where they're disfigured for life, and not only do they know how to cope with the injuries and the scarring and with all the emotions and how they're feeling and trying to get through it. It's very hard as a mum to be there for your eldest child who's the first one to reach that teenage stage, who's been injured just by hanging around with his friends to come together and help each other because of losing one of his best friends who's taken her life. And being 15-year-olds, they all came together to share each other's burdens and cry for the loss of their best friend and cousin, especially when a lot of the adult folk out there didn't even know how to deal with all these children. They were just putting it down to where these kids were just coming from dysfunctional homes with lack of support. But not only that, these kids were traumatised by situations that might have happened in their lives, and seeing abuse happen or just feeling unwanted. Well, I'd like to just talk about the situation where my son was that night. He was attending a wake where all family members come together after a loved one's funeral. And he was there with extended family members and some of his friends. And he was at the front yard trying to cross the road when a police vehicle, four-wheel drive, run him over with both tyres, the front and the back, to where he was just left laying in the middle of the road. And this is what all the witnesses are telling us, that the police didn't stop straight away. They drove down the road. And I just know that with all this here, I'm glad that the Lord didn't allow, Lord didn't allow us to go there to the scene that night. Especially with all the witnesses, we weren't even informed by the police that night. It was via extended family who were in shock, and still to this day are in shock. And not only that, where the police themselves have been harassing these witnesses, how they've made them all feel like they're not important, they're not worth anything. And the saddest thing is, this is a child that it's happened to. How does any parent or young child that's witnessed this accident, what I'd like to say as well within that night, with the adult people that were there on the night, and the young teenagers and children that would have witnessed my son laying in the middle of the road after being run over. The trauma that they would have been going through just by looking at the images of my son bleeding from the nose and mouth and the ears. And how we're meant to be moving forward as a family to try and get help not only for our son but for ourselves, because the night of the accident it was horrific to see our son bleeding from not only his left leg but having so much blood coming from him because of the injury, but he had both legs broken and badly damaged, where he's trying to sit himself up in the hospital bed and screaming and shouting in pain, where the 5 children had to listen to all this. And they had to witness this eldest brother go off, where it made me sick to the stomach, especially when it was just us there by ourselves. There was no services available at that time, even to come and sit with us as a family in the hospital.
Yeah, what services are available to you now and were provided to you then or shortly following?
The services that were available to us when we first moved out, I came up 4 days after our son was run over. We went to DCP. We went in there on that Monday morning to see if there was any assistance that we could get through them for fuel to come and see our son in hospital. And they said, with our son's injury and what's happened to him, we didn't come under their policies for them to help us as a family to go and see our 15-year-old son who nearly died because of his injury. To where our son, since the accident, has passed away 12 times that we know of. And that was told to us via one of the main orthopedic specialists that's seen our son and who still works with him to this day. But that's only every 3 months, or if he's hurt his leg to where he can just go in and see him. But the assistance that's out there for us as a family, we've got a lot of people that came for a short while to help us with accommodation to get up here, because we've had to resort to going from home to home with our children until we got into foundation housing, where there was a social worker that came out to visit us once a week.
Did you have to pay for your relocation from Perth to Albany? From
Yes.
Albany to Perth, sorry?
Yes, we paid all of that for ourselves, and we've got all the documents, everything. So it made life even harder. And on top of it, it was just me and Rex and our 5 children that packed a 5-bedroom home in Albany. And with all the trauma and the scarring that he's got, how does any 15-year-old deal with all the images that he looks at every day? So,
He is 17 now.
yes, he's 17.
And your second eldest boys, they're 15 now?
Yeah, I've got 15-year-old twin boys. And how our other children are coping with all the stuff that's happened since our son's got run over, they don't cope very well. The moment they see a policeman or someone in uniform, they cringe. I have panic attacks. I've had to go and sit in a few meetings to help me even talk. I was just in tears because I just looked out that policeman and thought, it's one of you that's run my son over. Yet I've got twin boys where anything to do with the eldest brother, if they hear that anyone's been nasty towards him, to where they get very angry real quick, especially when our eldest son is trying to fit in, and he has a fallout with the extended family. And then the moment he does that, well, the first thing extended family might be saying is they talk about his legs, and that makes us, the twin boys, very angry. I've got one who hits the weights because in his mind he's going to protect his brother, and he's out to hurt anyone who's going to hurt him. And even with the other twin brother, he is the quiet one, but he's the one who's got the temper. But he holds everything dear to his heart and all the emotions, where with the teenage boys, they don't open up to me and Dad and tell us how they feel about how this has affected them. And they think the only way to deal with things is bottling things up, which is the wrong thing to do, because as we all know, there's going to be a time when you're going to explode. And then I've got a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, where they walk around angry. I've had a situation at school with the 6-year-old daughter where she was getting picked on by a grade 6 boy, where my son, who is in grade 6, has manhandled this young boy and who has got in trouble. But like he said to the principal, I will protect my family and protect my little sister. They don't know how to cope with what's happened to their big brother. Their protective instincts are coming into scene at the moment, where they're so overprotective of one another.
Where's Chanel's house?
I don't know. We'll have to wait and think about that, Tweety. Maybe.
She said
It makes me, as a mum, feel very hollow because my kids can't come to me and tell me, or the father, how they feel.
Why do you think that is? Why?
Because they're holding everything in, because they can see how upset it makes me, the father, now. How we don't get the support. We don't get the family support. Since we've been up here in 2009,